Good morning, Philippines! Welcome to our Blazing News. I am Mr. Alieres, your news anchor for today. But before that news, let us proceed with our infographics show, which will be reported by Mr. Castillo and Mr. Cayapas.
Good day, everyone. This is our special report as we take a closer look at the infographic related to global media cultures. In this segment, we will decode the information presented by examining several guide questions that help us better understand the message behind the visual data. Let us begin with our first question. What does the infographic reveal?
First, the infographics reveal how global brands expand across different countries and how media helps connect people worldwide. It shows that the products, ideas, and lifestyles spread quickly through communication networks, creating more connected global society.
Second question is, do you think the trend can be avoided? Why or why not?
Second is, this trend is difficult to avoid because modern technology, social media, and international marketing allow information and products to move rapidly across borders. And as long as people continue to use global media platforms, this cultural exchange will continue to grow.
Moving on to the third question, what is the implication of the infographic to the world economy?
And third is, graphics imply that global media and international business have a strong impact on the world economy. Large global companies generate jobs, increase trade, and stimulate economic growth in many countries. However, they also create competition for local businesses.
Fourth question, would you consider the facts presented in the infographic related to globalization?
And number 4, the information presented in the infographics is clearly related to globalization. Globalization refers to the process where countries become more interconnected through trade, media, technology, and culture. The spread of international brands and global communication is a clear example of this process.
Finally, our fifth question, how do the specific brands affect the culture of people around the globe and within their own country?
Finally, specific global brands affect culture by influencing people's lifestyles, preferences, and consumer behavior. Around the world, people adopt similar habits such as drinking international coffee brands or eating global fast foods. Within countries, these brands can shape modern culture while local cultures may also adapt these products to fit their tradition. And in conclusion, the infographics show that global media and international brands play a powerful role in connecting cultures and shaping the modern global economy. This has been your news report on global media cultures. Thank you.
These questions will guide us as we analyze and interpret the information presented in the infographic. This has been our decoding segment. Stay tuned as we proceed to the next part of the activity.
Now let us talk about our first news, which will be talked about by our wonderful host, Mr. Tatad and Mr. Rivera. They will be talking about globalization and media.
Good day, everyone. I am Lemal Tata Jr., and I'll be discussing globalization and media, specifically the concept of cultural imperialism and global media debate. Cultural imperialism is the idea that powerful countries, especially Western industrialized nations, influence other countries through their media. Media such as movies, television, music, and news can shape the culture, beliefs, and values of people around the world. Because of globalization, media content from developed countries spreads quickly to developing nations. As a result, many people in parts of the world are exposed to Western culture through entertainment and information. For example, many countries watch Hollywood movies produced by Walt Disney and Warner Bros. These films often promote Western lifestyle, language, and fashion, which can influence how people from other cultures think and behave. According to international communication theory, cultural imperialism suggests that media messages from wealthy Western countries strongly influenced audiences worldwide. Researcher believes that developed nations export their cultural products such as film, television shows, music, and advertisement to other countries. Because these countries have stronger economies and better technology, they dominate the global media industry. This means developing countries consume more foreign media rather than producing their own. For example, popular streaming platforms like Netflix distribute many American TV shows globally. In countries like the Philippines, many viewers watch American series instead of local programs, which can influence language, fashion, and social behavior. Studies also show that there is an imbalance in global flow of media. Most news and entertainment content comes from industrialized countries and exported to developing nations. This creates two main issues: quantity imbalance and quality imbalance. Quantity imbalance is when Western countries produce and export most of the media content, while quality imbalance is when developing nations are often portrayed unfairly or negatively in Western media. Because of this imbalance, people in developing countries may adopt foreign values while their own cultures receive less global attention. For example, international news like CNN often reports global events from a Western perspective. This can influence how audience perceive different countries and culture. Due to these concerns, a global discussion about media inequality began in 1970s. This debate was launched during the 1973 UNESCO General Conference organized by UNESCO. The discussion led to the proposal of the New World Information and Communication Order, or NWICO. Its goal was to create a more balanced flow of information between developed and developing countries. The debate also became more complex because of new technologies, such as satellites and global communication systems, which allowed media content to travel faster across countries. For example, satellite televisions such as BBC and international streaming platforms allow people from different countries to access foreign media instantly. To conclude, globalization has made media accessible worldwide, but it has also created issues related to cultural influence and inequality in media production. Cultural imperialism shows how powerful countries can shape the culture and beliefs of other society through media. Because of this, many scholars and organizations have called for a more balanced global communication systems. Understanding these issues help us become more aware of how media influences culture in our globalized world.
Good day, everyone. I'm James Anthony Rivera, and I'll be discussing cultural imperialism and the shift toward globalization in international communication. The second stage of cultural imperialism research focuses on the commercialization of culture. Scholars began to look beyond nation states and focus more on transnational corporations and global capital flows that shape media production and cultural content worldwide. The research explained that it is difficult to separate the influence of transnational corporation from nation-state power. It is also challenging to distinguish capital flows from media flows. Because of these, the development of the cultural imperialism debate is seen more as a shift emphasis rather than a completely new theory. Although some scholars criticize cultural imperialism for being too simplistic, it remains useful because it highlights that international communication and media flows are strongly influenced by power. In recent years, globalization has become a widely used concept in international communication. It explains how cultures, economies, and communication systems are becoming increasingly interconnected around the world. This shift became more noticeable after Cold War, when the global political and economic structure changed. In this period, the nation state was no longer the only dominant actor, as international organization, corporation, and global communication network began to play a larger role. To conclude, cultural imperialism explains how power influences global media and culture, while globalization provides a broader understanding of the complex interactions between global and local cultures. in today's interconnected world.
Now, for our final news for today, which will be talked about by me, Mr. Illanes, and Miss De La Cruz, which will be talking about media globalization and hybridization. Good day, everyone. My name is Frank Jeff Oliares. Today, I will discuss media globalization and hybridization. The shift from cultural imperialism to globalization happened partly because of the end of the Cold War, which changed the global, political, and economic structure. During this time, the United States became the sole superpower, but the world also became more fragmented. Because of this complexity, the nation state is no longer the only dominant actor, since transnational activities now occur at subnational, national, and supranational levels. According to John Tomlinson in 1991, globalization replaced cultural imperialism because it describes a process with less coherence and direction, weakening the cultural unity of nation states. Media and information technologies play an important role in globalization, although scholars are still debate whether mass media actually created cultural globalization or simply intensified an already existing process. One perspective suggests that media lead to homogenization of culture, often symbolized by global popular culture like Planet Hollywood and the MTV generation. Political scientist Benjamin Barber discussed this idea in his book Jihad versus Macworld, subtitled How Globalism and Tribalism Are Reshaping the World, explains how global capitalism, global capitalism and local tribal identities interact and shape modern society.
Good day everyone, I am Asha Joy de la Cruz and I will be discussing cultural hybridization in relation to media and globalization. One perspective in understanding globalization is cultural hybridization. This idea explains that when cultures from different parts of the world interact, they do not simply replace each other. Instead, they mix and combine, creating new cultural forms. Because of globalization and media, people are constantly exposed to ideas, traditions, and practices from other cultures, which leads to this blending process. Hybridization also shows that globalization and local cultures work together in a dynamic way. This means that local cultures are not just passive or easily replaced by global influences. Instead, people adapt and reshape these influences to fit their own culture. Because of this, globalization should not only be seen as something that makes cultures the same. Rather, it can also create new and unique cultural discussion. One important scholar who discussed this idea is Nestor Garcia Canclini. In his book, Hybrid Cultures, he explains that many societies can be understood as hybrid cultures, meaning they are formed by combining different cultural traditions and influences. According to him, there are three main features of cultural hybridity. First is the mixing of previously separate cultural systems. For example, traditional forms of art can mix with popular culture to create something new. Second is the territorialization, which means cultural practices move away from their original place and appear in new environments. Because of globalization and media, ideas and cultural practices can spread quickly and can be adopted in other societies. Third is the creation of new cultural forms that come from blending different cultural influences. For example, local artisans might combine traditional craftsmanship with foreign artistic styles to create unique artworks. In media and communication studies, an important question is whether global media created cultural hybridity or if cultures were already hybrid even before modern media existed. In reality, cultures have interacted for a long time ago through trade, migration, and historical exchanges. However, modern media has made these interactions faster and more frequent. Because of this, global media strengthens and intensifies cultural mixing that already exists. This means globalization does not completely erase cultural differences. Instead, it creates a world where different cultures continue to interact, adapt, and evolve. To conclude, cultural hybridization helps us understand that globalization is not just about one culture dominating another. Rather, it is about the blending and continuous interactions of cultures, influenced by media and global connections.
And that's all for today. Thank you for listening to our wonderful news. And once again, good morning, Philippines, and may you have a wonderful rest of your day.